Johnny Depp has always been a mystery when it comes to his private life. He's the man who brought so many unforgettable characters to the screen, yet rarely spoke openly about the person who gave him life, his mother. Then, one day, everything changed. During a quiet moment in an interview, Johnny was asked a simple question about his family. But instead of the usual polite, guarded response, he surprised everyone. His voice softened, his eyes held a new kind of honesty, and the room grew still. You could almost hear a pin drop. Even the harshest critics, those who had been quick to judge him over the years, paused. They leaned in, sensing something real, something raw was about to be revealed. What Johnny said next stunned everyone. It wasn't just a story about his mother, it was a truth that would shake how people saw him and her forever. It was a moment when the walls came down and the world got a glimpse of the pain, the love, and the complicated bond between a son and his mother. Johnny Depp is known to the world as a talented actor, a rock star spirit, and a man who seems to carry a certain mystery with him. But beneath all the fame and flashing cameras, Johnny has always been deeply private, especially when it comes to his family. He's the kind of person who guards his heart carefully, keeping his most personal feelings locked away from the public eye. For years, Johnny rarely spoke about his mother, Betty Sue Palmer. In fact, he was almost always cautious about how he talked about anyone in his life. Even when others hurt him or said unkind things, Johnny chose silence or kindness. He never wanted to fuel drama or create conflict, no matter how tempting it might have been. The public saw Betty Sue only through the bright lights of premieres and award shows, smiling beside her son, waving at fans, or posing for photographers. But behind those polished images was a side of her no one really knew. The stories, the struggles, the real moments, those were hidden from view. Johnny never gave interviews about his mother, never shared her struggles or his own. To most, she was just Johnny Depp's mom. But to him, she was much more complicated, a woman who shaped him in ways no one outside their small circle could understand. Until now, the truth about their relationship was a secret kept behind closed doors, waiting for the moment Johnny would finally break his silence. Johnny Depp's story didn't begin under the bright lights of Hollywood or with the roar of a crowd. It started far from all that, in small towns in Kentucky and later Florida, where life was often anything but easy. As a child, Johnny's world was full of change. His family moved a lot, never staying in one place for long. With every new town came new schools, new faces, and a fresh start that never quite felt like home. Money was tight. His parents worked hard, but the struggle to make ends meet was always there, like a shadow hovering just out of sight. His mother, Betty Sue Palmer, was a force to be reckoned with. Strong-willed and fierce, she ruled the household with an iron hand. To some, she might have seemed tough or even harsh. And to Johnny, growing up, her moods could be unpredictable. One moment, she was his biggest supporter, cheering him on quietly from the sidelines. The next, she could be cold or sharp, her words cutting deeper than he understood at the time. It wasn't always easy to make sense of it. When the person who is supposed to protect you also makes you feel small, it creates a confusing kind of pain. Sometimes she would yell, sometimes she would punish him in ways that left invisible scars. Yet, beneath that rough exterior, Johnny knew there was love, even if it wasn't always shown the way a child hopes for. He carried that duality inside him for years. The love that made him feel safe, and the pain that left him wondering if he was ever enough. It's a feeling many children know but few can explain, the deep confusion when the people you depend on are also the ones who hurt you most. And yet, despite all this, Betty Sue believed in Johnny in her own way. She saw something in him, a spark, a talent, that she wanted to protect, even if her methods were imperfect. She wanted him to be strong, to survive, to fight for a better life. Johnny's childhood was a patchwork of these moments, laughter and tears, encouragement and criticism, love and fear. This complicated relationship would follow him for decades, shaping the man he would become. No one outside that family knew the full story. To the world, Johnny Depp was just a rising star, a charming young man with a mysterious smile. But behind closed doors, his story was one of struggle, resilience, and a mother who was both his greatest challenge and his deepest connection. As Johnny Depp's star began to rise in Hollywood, the world saw a man who seemed to have it all: talent, charm, and success. But what most people didn't see was the storm he carried inside, the invisible scars left by a difficult childhood that never truly healed. Fame did not erase the self-doubt that followed him like a shadow. Behind the characters he played and the smiles he gave to fans, Johnny battled with his own fears. Who was he really? Was he enough? Questions like these whispered in his mind, even on the brightest days. Acting became his refuge, a place where he could escape the chaos of his past and lose himself in someone else's story. Music was another outlet, a way to pour out the emotions he couldn't always put into words. Whether strumming a guitar or slipping into a role, Johnny found moments of peace in these creative worlds. Even as his career soared, his complicated relationship with his mother remained close to his heart. Quietly, away from the public eye, Johnny would dedicate performances and awards to her. It was his way of saying, "I carry you with me even when their bond was strained, and their past was filled with pain." Critics and fans often saw only the surface, the rebellious star, the eccentric genius. They didn't know the man behind the scenes was wrestling with memories that refused to fade. The smiles hid hurt, the jokes masked insecurity. Johnny's story was not just one of fame and fortune. It was a story of survival, of a boy who grew into a man, still haunted by the echoes of a mother's complicated love. This inner struggle shaped not only his art but his very being, even as the world cheered his name. In 2016, the world quietly lost Betty Sue Palmer, Johnny Depp's mother. For Johnny, her passing wasn't just the end of a chapter, it was a profound turning point, one that shook him deeply but in ways few could understand. Though their relationship had been complicated, Johnny was devastated, but his grief wasn't simple or easy to read. It wasn't the kind of sadness that shows on the surface with tears and open mourning. Instead, it was heavier, quiet, tangled, and full of things left unsaid. At her funeral, Johnny kept to himself. There were no dramatic displays, no words for the waiting cameras. He chose to grieve in private, surrounded by only a few close family members and friends. His usual charm and lightness seemed to fade away, replaced by a solemn weight. Afterward, Johnny became even more withdrawn. He rarely appeared in public, and when he did, there was a noticeable change. His eyes carried a shadow, a sorrow that no one could easily reach. Rumors began to swirl. Some said he was broken, others whispered about hidden struggles with addiction or personal battles. Tabloids speculated endlessly, but Johnny never responded. He stayed silent, guarding his pain as fiercely as ever, but the truth went deeper than the rumors. It wasn't just sadness or loss, it was the complex mix of grief, forgiveness, anger, and understanding all wrapped into one. Losing his mother forced Johnny to confront a lifetime of memories, both the good and the painful. This moment marked the beginning of a new chapter for Johnny Depp, one where the walls around his heart started to crack, one where he would finally begin to share the difficult truth about his mother and about himself. The silence was about to end. The world wasn't prepared for what happened next. It was during a tense court case that Johnny Depp finally broke his long silence about his mother. Up until that moment, he had guarded his feelings carefully, never letting the public glimpse the full truth of his past. But standing there, under the harsh glare of cameras and flashing lights, something inside him shifted. When asked about his family, Johnny took a deep breath and spoke with a raw honesty that caught everyone off guard. "My mother," he said quietly, "was the meanest human being I've ever met." The room went silent, no one expected such blunt words. For years, Johnny had been seen as kind and gentle, a man who rarely spoke ill of anyone. But here in that moment, he was admitting something painful and real, a truth many people had never guessed. He went on to explain how his early years were shaped by a love that was hard to recognize. "I had to learn love through pain," he said. "She didn't know how to show it any other way." His voice trembled slightly as he shared memories of a mother who was strong but also deeply broken herself. Johnny revealed that Betty Sue had carried her own wounds, scars from a life filled with hardships he could barely imagine. She was shaped by her own trauma, he said, and she never learned how to love softly. Then something remarkable happened. Johnny spoke not just of pain, but of forgiveness. "I forgive her," he said simply, and those two words echoed around the room like a whispered prayer. His vulnerability was disarming. Critics who had once been quick to judge him were left speechless. Fans watched in awe, moved by the courage it took to speak so openly about something so personal and painful. For the first time, Johnny wasn't just the actor or the celebrity. He was a son speaking honestly about his mother, the woman who had hurt him, but also the woman he loved. The emotional reveal sparked conversations everywhere. People began to see Johnny in a new light, not as just a star, but as a human being grappling with a complicated past. His words reminded everyone that love is rarely simple and that forgiveness can be the hardest thing of all. That day, Johnny Depp's honesty broke down walls, not just between him and the world, but within himself. It was the moment when the pain he carried quietly for so long became a bridge to healing, understanding, and most importantly, peace. After Johnny Depp's powerful words about his mother were shared with the world, not everyone reacted with understanding. Some media outlets jumped quickly to twist his honesty, painting his confession as an attempt to blame his mother for everything that went wrong in his life. Tabloids ran headlines, accusing him of airing family dirty laundry or using his past as an excuse. Critics suggested he was trying to gain sympathy or distract from his other troubles. The backlash was swift and harsh, just the kind of storm Johnny had always tried to avoid. But amid the noise, something unexpected happened. Fans from all over the world began to speak out in support of Johnny's bravery. Many shared their own stories of complicated childhoods, of pain hidden behind smiles, and of the struggle to forgive those who hurt them. Survivors of childhood trauma thanked him for giving voice to feelings they had kept locked inside for years. Psychologists and counselors also joined the conversation, explaining how Johnny's words touched on something real and important: generational trauma, the pain passed down through families, and the difficult path to healing. Messages flooded in, letters, emails, social media posts, thanking Johnny for his honesty. People said his courage helped them find their own strength. Some wrote that hearing his story gave them hope that forgiveness was possible, even when it felt impossible. Johnny's revelation sparked a larger discussion about how families carry pain across generations and how love can sometimes be mixed with hurt. It reminded many that healing is not about forgetting the past, but understanding it and choosing to break the cycle. What started as a personal moment for Johnny had grown into a movement of empathy and healing. His words were no longer just his own, they belonged to anyone who had ever struggled to love or be loved fully. In opening his heart, Johnny Depp opened a door for millions to step through. And for that, many were deeply grateful. Despite all the pain and struggles in their relationship, Johnny Depp honors his mother in his own quiet, personal way. It's a tribute that doesn't make headlines or grab attention, but it speaks volumes about the deep connection they shared. One of the most visible signs of this bond is the tattoo on his arm, Betty Sue's name, inked permanently as a reminder of the woman who shaped his life. That simple tattoo tells a story of love and loss, of respect even when the road was rocky. Johnny often speaks about the lessons he learned from his mother, the good and the bad. He acknowledges how those experiences made him who he is today, how the pain pushed him to be stronger, and how the love, even if complicated, taught him resilience. In interviews, Johnny has become more open but also more thoughtful. He chooses his words carefully now, no longer hiding the truth about his past or their relationship. He shares pieces of his story with honesty, never to seek pity, but to shed light on the complexity of family and healing. Most importantly, Johnny reminds us all that healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened, it means understanding. Understanding the reasons behind pain, the people who caused it, and most of all, understanding ourselves. Through this quiet tribute, Johnny Depp honors not just his mother but the journey they both traveled, a journey filled with hardship, forgiveness, and ultimately love in its imperfect form. After opening up about his past, Johnny Depp began a new chapter in his life, one focused on personal growth and finding peace. He started to turn more of his energy toward music, a passion that had always been close to his heart. Playing guitar and performing on stage allowed him to express emotions words couldn't capture, giving him a creative outlet that felt freeing and real. At the same time, Johnny became more selective with his acting roles. He chose projects that meant something deeper to him, films where he could pour his soul into the character and tell stories that mattered. It was no longer about fame or popularity, but about finding meaning in his work. Perhaps most importantly, Johnny started speaking more openly about emotional health. He talked about therapy, the importance of facing inner demons, and breaking painful cycles passed down through generations. He wanted people to understand that healing isn't a straight path but a journey with ups and downs. His honesty and willingness to share his struggles inspired many. People saw him not as a flawless celebrity, but as a human being, real and vulnerable. His story gave others permission to face their own pain, to seek help, and to believe that healing is possible. Johnny's journey wasn't perfect, but it was genuine, and that made all the difference. Through his courage and growth, Johnny Depp became more than just an actor or musician. He became a symbol of resilience, forgiveness, and hope for anyone who has ever been hurt, but still dreams of peace. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and leave a comment below. Have you ever forgiven someone who hurt you deeply? Sharing your story could help someone else feel less alone. Don't forget to subscribe for more real, emotional stories that reveal the human side of people we think we know. And if you believe in healing and hope, please share this video with someone who might need it today. Together we can spread understanding and kindness, one story at a time.